Welcome to part 2 of the discussion video on module number 3, yung accounting for budgetary accounts. So kanina ay natapos tayo dito sa illustration using the revised chart illustration using the revised chart of accounts under the government accounting manual. So i-illustrate na natin kung paano ba yung process ng recording to reporting to yung journal how to journalize transactions under the government accounting, which are normally included in the CPA board exam. Normally, ang tinatanong lang sa CPA board exam is how do you record the notice of cash allocation, kailangan alam mo itong capital outlay, MOE, personal services, and financial expenses, yung mga basic questions related to government accounting. Because if you will look at the CPA, CPALE syllabus, merong items doon for accounting for government and non-profit organizations. So let's illustrate. Department of Health, DOH, is a national government agency. Some of the major transactions of the agency for the year 2019 were as follows. Be mindful na ang dinidiscuss natin ay yung accounting for national government agencies. Meron kasing government accounting manual for the local government units. So, ang regular, ang kailangan mong matutunan is yung national government agencies, because once you learn this national government agencies, ma-appreciate mo na yung some of the LGU rules and regulations because they are covered by the local government code. So, ang dinidiscuss natin is the national government agency. So, may dalawang partition kasi yan under the current practice in the government. So may GAM for national government and may GAM for LGUs din. Okay, some of the major transactions of the agency for the year were as follows. Okay. Number 1, the approved appropriation for the year ay 3 million. 90% of this appropriation was allotted by DBM to DOH. The allotment is broken down as follows. So, capital outlay, MOE, personal services, financial expenses. So, meron daw approved appropriation for the year, 3 million. Nire-record, journalize ba ito based on the previous discussions? The appropriation is not journalized. Sabi, 90% daw ay inalat na ng DBM to DOH. So, ang generous dahil nai-allot na agad yung 90%. So, kapag nagka-receive ka ng allotment, anong gagawin mo? You will record it into your Registry of Allotments and Obligations, memorandum entry to the following registries. Kaya nga sabi dyan, RAUCO 335, RAUMO 102, RAOPS 60,000, RAOFE 40,000. So, i-record mo lang yung under a memo entry, yung receipt of the allotment from DBM. Okay, let's go with number 2. Dahil naka-receive ka na ng allotment, eventually you receive a notice of cash allocation 2 million inclusive of the withholding tax. Kapag naka-receive ka ng notice of cash allocation, ano ang journal entry mo dyan? You debit cash, modified system, disbursement system regular, that is 10-10-40-40 under the revised chart of accounts, 2 million. Credit subsidy from national government, that is 40-30-10-10 under the revised chart of accounts, 2 million. So, naka-receive ka ng cash, MDS regular, then subsidy, ito yung income account mo from national government. Dahil naka-receive ka na ng notice of cash allocation, anong ibig sabihin ng notice of cash allocation? You are now allowed or authorized to make payments out of the government funds. So, obligations were incurred as follows. May dumating na voucher may dumating na disbursement voucher sa budget unit at nakalagay doon itong mga items na to. PS, MOE, capital outlay, financial expenses. So, ito ay summary lang. Hindi naman agad-agad PS 50,000 obligation. Kumbaga, for a particular period, ito lang yung illustrate for illustration purposes, obligations were incurred. For example, for the month, ito yung obligations na na-incur. Ibig sabihin, ito yung na-record doon sa allotments sa RAOPS, RAUMO, RAUCO, RAOFE na deduction doon sa original allotment. So, kapag nag-incur ka daw ng obligation, how do you recognize it? Nire-record, journalize ba yan? No. Obligations are not journalized but are recorded as memo entry pa rin doon sa mga registries. So deductions na sila doon. 50, 70, 180, and 30. Next, you receive the office equipment purchase with the charge invoice 50,000. How do you recognize this? Same pa rin. You debit office equipment, that is 10, 60, 50, 20 under the RCA, revised chart of accounts, that is 50,000. Debit accounts payable, 50,000. Dahil siya ay charge invoice. So, utang yan. Grant of cash advance for payroll, 40,000. Okay. You debit advances for payroll, that is 1990, 1020 under RCA, 40,000, and credit cash MDS regular, 40,000. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Bakit nagka-cash advance for payroll? Normally, ang mga kina-cash advance for payroll, ito yung mga items na dun sa mga laborer na on a per hour or per day basis ang kontrata sa kanila. So, kailangan mag-advance ng isang accountable officer. So, mayroong accountable officer na isang banded accountable officer na ibibigay sa kanya yung pera. Normally yung cashier ang nagka-cash advance for payroll. So, parang ano na yan. Itong cash advance na to, it is subject for liquidation in the future. So, advances for payroll, ang gagamiting account, debit, 40, credit, cash, MDS regular. Dahil dyan, kinuha yung pera. Payment of salaries and wages and other allowances. So ito yung detalye daw. Salaries, 44, clothing, may pera pa. Yung pera is the personnel economic relief allowance. Personnel economic relief allowance. Please check on that. Salaries, clothing allowance, pera. So, yun yung total benefit niya, ang deduction niya, withholding tax payable, ito yung babayaran sa BIR, GSIS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth, 10,000. So, yung kanyang net payroll ay 40. So, for example daw, ito ang laman ng iyong general payroll. How do you recognize yung entry niyan? So, for the salaries and wages and other allowances, kung papansin mo kasi dito, kapag merong clothing allowance at merong pera, ibig sabihin yan ay for permanent employees. So, salaries and wages, regular, 44,000. So, ginagamit ang salaries and wages regular for permanent employees. Yung labor and wages, merong ganong term, yon ay ginagamit for contractual or yung mga job order workers, yung mga non-permanent employees. So, how do we recognize itong payroll na ito? Salaries and wages, regular, that is 50, 10, 10, 10 under RCA, 44,000. Clothing or uniform allowance, civilian. Clothing and uniform allowance, civilian. Meron talagang ganitong civilian because meron for uniformed personnel, yung mga nasa army. 50, 10, 20, 40 yan sa RCA, that is 3,000. Pera, ayun pala, personal economic relief allowance, civilian, because meron ding pera for uniform. Ano itong pera na to? This is 2,000 per month. So, for example, ang iyong salary is 20,000, basic salary mo 20,000, meron ka pang additional 2,000 per month under the government. Sa government ganun, may plus 2,000. So that is 50, 10, 20, 10, that is 3,000. So how do you recognize for your liabilities? Debit due to BIR, 3,500. Debit, that is 20, 20, 10, 10 under RCA. Due to GSIS, 2020, 1020, due to Pag-ibig, 2020, 1030, due to PhilHealth, 2020, 1040, advances for payroll, 1990, 1020. Okay. Itong advances for payroll pala dito is the recognition, kumbaga, in advance na muna yung cash from the MDS regular. So, hindi ito yung for yung mga per day and per hour as given by the transaction. Yeah, kina-cash advance yung payroll muna before recognizing the expense. Okay, this is subject to liquidation. So, since ito ay expense na, itong salaries, clothing, and itong pera, these are expense accounts, salaries, clothing, and pera, i-close mo yung advances for payroll dahil doon siya kukuhanin. So, normally yan, kinocompute mo na itong total na ito before you get your cash advance. So, this is checked by the accountant of the government. Okay. So, kanina, meron kang liabilities on the mandatory deductions, yung BIR, GSIS, Pag-ibig. You now remit the deductions. Due to GSIS, you debit due to GSIS. Ito ay mga liability account. Itong mga ito ay liability account. Yung advances for payroll, yan ay receivable account, yung advances for payroll, kasi kailangan yan matanggap. Kumbaga, kailangan yan ay bumalik din doon sa funds ng government. So, how do you remit? You just debit your liability account, then you credit your cash, MDS regular. So, 5,500, 400, 600, 6,500 ang cash, MDS regular. Payment of government share for the following life and retirement contribution, Pag-ibig contribution, PhilHealth contribution. So, ano ito? Kung ano yung binawas doon sa, pansinin mo, yung kanina, these are the employee share. So, merong employer share yan under the government. Sa private, ganyan din. Kung magkano yung binayad ng employee, tatapatan ng employer. Payment of government share for the following. So, how do they recognize this? This is so ibang account na ginagamit. Retirement and life insurance premiums, that is 50-10, 30-10 under RCA 55. Pag-ibig contributions, 50-10, 30-20. PhilHealth contributions, 50-10, 30-30. Itong mga items na ito, ano ba ito? These are expense accounts. Government share. So, kaya siya hinihiwalay is para ma-segregate for monitoring purposes. Pag tinignan sa statement of financial position, makikita kung ilan ang total items ng RLIP, yung retirement and life insurance, ilan ang pag-ibig contributions, ng PhilHealth contributions na i-remit for representing the government share for that particular period. Okay. Dito tayo sa utilities. Let's look at the example. Payment of the following obligations, Meralco, PLDT, tas may accounts payable dun sa office equipment. Pag Meralco bill, ang ginagamit na under sa revised chart of accounts is 50-20, 40-20. Electricity expenses, 500,000. Sobrang laki, no? Because of the quarantine, lumobo. Para realistic, nilakihan ko yan. Telephone expenses, 50-20, 50-20, 40,000. For the PLDT bill yun. Yun yung ginagamit na account under the RCA. Nagbayad ka daw ng accounts payable for the office equipment. Ito yung kanina, yung office equipment na utang mo, you debit the liability dahil binayaran mo na siya. Then you credit the cash MDS regular, 585. Bakit 585? Dapat 590. But because of a withholding tax ng 5,000 doon sa binayaran mong office equipment, because a government agency, kapag ikaw government agency, are required to withhold taxes. So, huwag mong kakalimutan mag-withhold ng taxes when you are paying suppliers. So, due to BIR, 5,000. So, eventually, yung due to BIR na yan, i-remit yan every 10th of the following month. Depende pala kung anong classification ng tax. Next, issuance of a tax remittance advice for tax withheld. So, for example, this is for illustration purposes only yung amount. Issuance of a tax remittance advice for tax withheld. Remember, kapag ikaw ay nagtatransact sa government, you are required to withhold taxes. So, lahat ng na-withhold na taxes will be remitted to the BIR. So, gumagamit ng cash tax remittance advice o 10-10-470 under RCA na account. you debit cash, tax remittance advice, and then you credit subsidy from national government. Ano ang logic nitong cash tax remittance advice na ito? Ito ay parang constructive receipt ng uh, funds yan. Kasi originally, 'di ba doon sa NCA na natatanggap mo, for example, 1 million, tapos may mga babayaran ka sa supplier doon. Hindi naman lahat ng amounts na for example, ang bayarin mo sa supplier ay 100,000, hindi naman 100,000 ang babayaran mo sa supplier dahil meron kang ibabawas na tax niya. Yung tax na babayaran niya, ikaw na mismo ang magbabawas dahil ikaw ay withholding agent ka ng BIR. So, it will be recognized as an income by recording debit, cash tax remittance advice, and credit subsidy from national government. So, etong 8.5 na tinutukoy dito, ito yung naipon for a particular period, for example. So, you recognize yung cash tax remittance advice, kumbaga parang constructive receipt. Hindi mo talaga natanggap, pero constructively natanggap mo yung funds na yan. Dahil yan ay galing doon sa binawas mo doon sa mga suppliers. Then you credit subsidy from national government. So once you remit the taxes, you debit due to BIR and then you credit cash tax remittance advice. So doon lang din siya manggagaling. This cash tax remittance advice means the constructive payment naman to the BIR. So si BIR ay nagre-record din ng cash tax, si Bureau of Treasury ay nagre-record din ng cash tax remittance advice. Next, collection of income and other receipts which the agency is authorized. Mahaba pa ba ito? Hindi, malapit na siyang matapos. Collection of income and other receipts which the agency is authorized to use. Sales revenue, permit fee, miscellaneous income. So kapag ikaw ay nag-collect, tapos ikaw ay authorized na gamitin yan, you just debit cash collecting officers. That is 10, 10, 10, 10. 90,000. So sales revenue, these are income accounts. Credit sales revenue 40, 20, 21, 60, 40,000. Permit fees 40, 20, 10, 10, 30,000. Miscellaneous income 40, 60, 99, 90, 20,000. So itong mga coding structures na ito ginagamit kasi yan sa pagre-record sa government accounting. So kaya ko ini-indicate yan dito para ma-familiarize ka na merong coding structures na ganyan. So, gumagamit sila ng cash collecting officers. Ibig sabihin, itong cash collecting officers na to, these are part of the cash component. Pero, if you will look at the concept niyan, yan ay dapat, yan ay receivable. Kumbaga, receivable yan ng agency kasi yung cash ay nandoon sa collecting officer pa. So, dapat yung mga cash collecting officers na yan, eventually yan ay nade-deposit doon sa mga cash in bank accounts. Ito na yun. Deposited the above collections through the agency depository bank. Debit cash in bank, local currency, current account, 10, 10, 20, 20, 90,000. Cash collecting officers, 90,000. So, ini-eliminate yun. So, dapat deposited intact. Yan. So, naka-close agad yan. Supposedly, dapat within the day ay nade-deposit yung mga cash collecting officers account. Cash in bank, local currency. Ibig sabihin ng local currency, these are peso accounts. Current account, ibig sabihin ito yung mga checking account, yung may mga cheque. That is 10, 10, 20, 20. So I think that ends the discussion on the practical journal entries on government accounting. So I will be providing assessment siguro on the topic accounting for budgetary accounts. So by this time dapat na-accomplish mo na yung assignment 1 and assignment 2 and merong yung quiz number 1 dapat ay na-accomplish mo na before ka magpunta dito sa module 3. Yun muna sa ngayon. Thank you.